Why the healed empath stops being nice to healed to be nice does not mean the empath becomes cruel. It means she finally stops being polite to patterns that were slowly destroying her. There is a moment in a healed empath's life when people start saying, "You changed." And they are right. She did change, but not in the way they think. She did not lose her heart. She lost her habit of abandoning herself to keep everyone comfortable. She did not become cold. She became clear. She did not stop caring. Stopped confusing care with access, forgiveness with permission, and kindness with emotional slavery. That is why people call her not nice anymore, because the old version of her would explain. The old version would soften the truth. The old version would smile when something hurt. The old version would say, "It's okay," when her body knew it was not okay. The old version would give another chance, answer another message, listen to another excuse, hold another person's pain, and then lie awake at night wondering why her own soul felt so tired. But the healed empath does not do that anymore. And to people who benefited from her self abandonment, healing will look like betrayal. That is the first truth. Some people do not miss your kindness, they miss your lack of boundaries. They miss the version of you who could be reached through guilt, the version who answered quickly, the version who forgave before processing, the version who made excuses for their behavior because she could feel the wound behind it, the version who would rather hurt herself quietly than make someone else uncomfortable with the truth. They called that version nice. But she was not always nice. Sometimes she was scared, scared to disappoint, scared to be misunderstood, scared to be called selfish, scared to lose people who only stayed because she made herself easy to keep. That is why the healed empath stops being nice, because she finally understands that being nice in the wrong rooms was not love, it was survival. There is a woman sitting at a table with people she has known for years. Someone makes a small comment, not loud enough for others to call it cruel, not obvious enough for the room to stop. Just a sharp little sentence hidden inside a joke. The old version of her would have smiled. She would have swallowed the sting. She would have told herself, "Do not make it awkward. Do not be sensitive. Do not ruin the mood." But this time, she does not laugh. She feels the old pressure to pretend. Then she feels something stronger, truth. And the truth says, "I am not laughing at my own wound anymore." That is what healing looks like. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes healing is simply the moment you stop helping people disrespect you by pretending it did not hurt. A healed empath stops being nice because she has learned the difference between kindness and performance. Kindness is real. Kindness has a clean heart. Kindness gives because it chooses to. Kindness can say yes without resentment and no without guilt, but performance is different. Performance is when you smile so people do not have to face what they did. Performance is when you apologize just to end the tension. Performance is when you act okay so nobody has to comfort you. Performance is when you become gentle with people who keep being careless with you. Performance is when you protect everyone's peace except your own. And the healed empath gets tired of performing. She gets tired of making pain look manageable. She gets tired of making disrespect look small. She gets tired of being called mature because she knows how to suffer quietly. So one day, she stops. She stops making herself easy to mistreat. She stops giving soft answers to hard disrespect. She stops explaining boundaries to people who only understand access. She stops being the emotional cushion between other people and the consequences of their behavior. And when she does, they say, "You are not nice anymore." No, she is just no longer useful to the version of you that needed her without respecting her. There is a woman staring at her phone late at night. A message has arrived from someone who always returns when they need comfort. They were absent when she needed them. They were cold when she was hurting. They were distant when she asked for clarity. But now they need her softness again. The message says, "I need to talk." Her thumb hovers over the screen. The old empath would answer instantly, "What happened? I'm here. Tell me everything." She would give the energy she did not have. She would become the safe place again. She would forget how many times this person left her unsafe. But this time she pauses. Her body says no before her mouth can say yes. And for the first time, she listens. She replies later, or maybe she does not reply at all. not because she hates them, not because she wants revenge, not because she has become heartless, because she finally knows that her emotional availability is sacred, and sacred things do not belong to everyone. That is the second truth. A healed empath stops being nice when she realizes some people only respect her when she is useful. They love her when she listens. They love her when she forgives. They love her when she understands. They love her when she keeps giving emotional warmth to people who bring emotional coldness. But when she needs space, they call her distant. When she says no, they call her selfish. When she sets a boundary, they call her changed. When she stops explaining, they call her cold. That is when she sees the truth. They did not love her softness. They love the access her softness gave them. Some people do not want the healed version of you. They want the available version, the version who can be drained and still smile, the version who can be hurt and still answer, the version who can be ignored and still show up, the version who can be given crumbs and still call it love. The healed empath becomes too honest for that, too awake, too aware, too protective of the woman she almost lost, trying to be good to everyone else. And that is why she stops being nice in the old way. She remains kind. But her kindness has a spine now. There is a deep difference between a nice empath and a healed empath. The nice empath says, I understand why you hurt me. The healed empath says, I understand, but I am still allowed to protect myself. The nice empath says, maybe they did not mean it. The healed empath says, maybe they did not, but the impact still matters. The nice empath says, I should give them another chance. The healed empath says, another chance is not healing if it keeps becoming another wound. The nice empath says, I do not want to seem selfish. The healed empath says, I will not call self betrayal kindness anymore. That is the shift. And it changes everything because a healed empath does not stop seeing people's pain. She still sees it. She still feels it. She still understands the wound behind the behavior. She still senses the sadness behind the ego, the fear behind the anger, the insecurity behind the control. But she no longer uses that understanding to excuse her own mistreatment. That is maturity, to understand someone and still walk away, to forgive someone and still close the door, to care about someone and still stop carrying them, to know someone is wounded and still refuse to become the place where their wound keeps cutting you. That is not cruelty. That is wisdom. There is a woman sitting in a room after an argument. Her heart is racing. She wants to explain. She wants to send a long message. She wants to make them understand that she is not attacking them, not trying to hurt them, not trying to be difficult. She wants to explain her pain so gently that they cannot possibly reject it. But then she remembers something. She has explained before. She has softened before. She has made her wound small before, and they still repeated the behavior. So this time she does not write the paragraph. She lets the silence stand, not the silence of punishment, the silence of clarity, because some people do not need another explanation. They need less access. This is where the healed empath becomes powerful. She stops turning her pain into a presentation for people who are committed to misunderstanding it. She stops believing that if she finds the perfect words, they will finally become careful. She stops trying to make her boundary sound sweet enough to be accepted by the person who made it necessary. A boundary does not need to be approved to be real. That line can set her free. A boundary does not need to be approved to be real. The healed empath learns to say, this does not work for me, without writing a full emotional essay afterward. She learns to say, I cannot do that, without proving she is still a good person. She learns to say, I need space, without apologizing for having a nervous system. She learns to say, I forgive you, but I am not available for this pattern, without waiting for the other person to understand. And the first time she does this, it may feel uncomfortable because healing does not always feel peaceful in the beginning. Sometimes healing feels like guilt. Sometimes healing feels like fear. Sometimes healing feels like the old version of you begging to return to the familiar pain because at least familiar pain knows your name. But the healed empath breathes through it. She says, guilt is not always proof that I am wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the old conditioning panicking because I finally chose myself. That is the third truth. A healed empath stops being nice because she finally stops obeying guilt. For years, guilt may have controlled her. Someone was disappointed and she gave in. Someone was upset and she softened. Someone accused her of changing and she explained. Someone called her selfish and she overgave to prove she was not. Guilt was the leash, and some people knew exactly how to pull it. But the healed empath begins to ask, is this guilt coming from love or from fear? Am I saying yes because I want to? Or because I am afraid of what will happen if I say no? Am I forgiving because I am free or because I am scared to lose them? Am I being kind because my heart is open or because my nervous system is terrified of conflict? These questions change her life because once she sees the difference, she cannot unsee it. There is a woman walking away from a conversation where someone tried to guilt her back into the old role. They said, "You used to care more." They said, "You were not the same." They said, "I thought you were different." They said it with sadness. They said it with disappointment. They said it in the exact tone that used to make her fold. But this time, she hears what is underneath. You used to be easier to access. You used to let me take more. You used to protect me from the consequences of how I treated you. You used to betray yourself faster. And instead of folding, she breathes. Their disappointment is not proof that I did something wrong. That sentence becomes a key. Their disappointment is not proof that I did something wrong. Their silence is not proof that I am cruel. Their reaction is not proof that my boundary is bad. Their discomfort is not my emergency. This is how the healed empath becomes free, not by becoming unfeeling, by becoming disciplined with her feelings. She still feels the pull to explain. She still feels the ache of being misunderstood. She still feels sadness when people leave. She still feels compassion when someone is hurting, but she does not let every feeling become a command. That is emotional adulthood. And it is the reason people no longer know how to control her. The old empath was reachable through guilt, reachable through sadness, reachable through silence, reachable through someone else's pain, reachable through fear of abandonment, reachable through the need to be seen as good. The healed empath changes the lock. She is still loving, but no longer available for emotional manipulation. She is still soft, but no longer unprotected. She is still kind, but no longer obedient to guilt. That is what too healed to be nice really means. It means she has become too whole to keep playing the role that kept everyone else comfortable while she disappeared. There is another scene. A woman is sitting with family, friends, or someone she used to shrink around. They say something dismissive. They expect her to laugh. They expect her to stay quiet. They expect the old version of her to keep the peace. But she does not. She does not explode. She does not attack. She simply says, "Please do not speak to me like that." The room changes. People look surprised because they are not used to her protecting herself in real time. The old empath would have waited until later to cry. The healed empath protects herself before the wound has to deepen. That is the fourth truth. A healed empath stops being nice because she has learned that delayed honesty becomes resentment. Every time she said yes while meaning no, resentment grew. Every time she smiled while hurting, resentment grew. Every time she let someone cross a line and pretended it was fine, resentment grew. Every time she comforted someone who should have taken accountability, resentment grew. And eventually, she realized she was not angry because she was a bad person. She was angry because her boundaries had been ignored for too long, including by herself. Anger for the empath can be frightening. She may not know what to do with it. She may judge herself for it. She may think anger means she is becoming bitter, dark, or cruel. But sometimes anger is not hatred. Sometimes anger is the part of you that still loves you enough to say, "This cannot continue." That is why the healed empath stops suppressing every uncomfortable truth. She does not weaponize anger. She listens to it. She asks, "What boundary is trying to be born here?" That question changes anger into guidance. There is a woman sitting alone in her car after spending time with people who drain her. Nothing obvious happened. No one yelled. No one insulted her. But she feels heavy, tired, empty, like something was taken from her. The old version of her would say, "Maybe I am just tired." The healed version asks, "Why does my body feel relieved when I am away from them?" That is awareness. Because The body often tells the truth before the mind is ready to admit it. The body knows when a connection is draining. The body knows when a room is unsafe. The body knows when a yes is a betrayal. The body knows when someone's kindness is fake. The body knows when you are forcing yourself to stay in a place your spirit has already left. The healed empath starts listening. And when she listens, she becomes less available for what drains her. People may call that being not nice, but it is really being honest with the body that carried her through years of ignoring herself. This is the fifth truth. A healed empath stops being nice because she learns that peace is not found by pleasing everyone. Peace is found by being true to herself, even when someone else is disappointed. The old empath thought peace meant no conflict. The healed empath knows peace means no self betrayal. That is a completely different life. Because if peace means no conflict, she will lie, she will shrink, she will overgive, she will agree, she will avoid hard conversations. She will stay where she is not safe just to avoid making noise. But if peace means no self betrayal, she becomes honest, she becomes selective, she becomes careful with access. She becomes willing to disappoint people who benefit from her silence. And that kind of peace feels stronger, cleaner, real. There is a woman locking her door at night after choosing not to go back to an old pattern. Maybe she did not answer the call. Maybe she did not accept the apology without change. Maybe she did not attend the gathering where she always leaves feeling small. Maybe she did not explain herself to someone committed to misunderstanding her. The lock clicks. The room is quiet. For a moment, loneliness rises. Then peace follows. And she realizes something powerful. I would rather sit in honest silence than return to a room where I have to abandon myself to be accepted. That is healing, not because she has no loneliness, because loneliness no longer chooses for her. She can feel lonely and still not return. She can miss someone and still not reopen the wound. She can care and still choose distance. She can forgive and still protect access. This is what makes the healed empath different. She does not confuse pain with instructions. She can feel pain without obeying the old pattern. There is another reason the healed empath stops being nice. She finally understands that some people use nice as a cage. They do not say, be nice, because they value kindness. They say it because they want her silence. They say it when she names the truth. They say it when she sets a boundary. They say it when she stops overgiving. They say it when she stops laughing at disrespect. They say it when she refuses to make herself smaller. Be nice often means go back to being easier for me. Be nice often means do not make me accountable. Be nice often means your honesty is inconvenient. Be nice often means your healing is disturbing the old arrangement. The healed empath hears the translation and she no longer obeys it. She chooses kindness, yes, but she refuses fake niceness. Fake niceness makes her betray herself. Real kindness includes herself. That is the sixth truth. The healed empath becomes included in her own compassion. For years, she gave compassion outward. She understood everyone's wounds. She made room for everyone's trauma. She excused everyone's behavior. She remembered everyone's pain. But she forgot herself. She forgot the little girl inside her who was tired of being mature. She forgot the woman inside her who wanted to be held, not just needed. She forgot her body, her rest, her anger, her longing, her voice. Healing is the moment compassion turns inward. She starts saying, I understand them, but I understand myself too. She starts saying, their pain matters, but mine does not disappear because theirs exists. She starts saying, I can care about what made them this way and still not let them keep hurting me. She starts saying, I am allowed to be part of the love I give. That is when she stops being nice in the old way, because the old way required her to exclude herself. The healed way does not. There is a woman in front of a mirror after a long season of giving too much. She looks tired, not just physically tired, soul tired. She remembers the years of saying yes, the years of explaining, the years of being the safe place, the years of accepting crumbs because she could see someone's potential, the years of being praised for strength while secretly begging for rest. She places a hand on her chest and whispers, I am sorry I kept leaving you. That apology changes everything because the healed empath finally realizes the person she abandoned most was herself, not because she did not love herself at all, but because she kept choosing other people's comfort over her own truth. She kept choosing connection over inner safety. She kept choosing being liked over being whole. And now she cannot do that anymore. That is why the healed empath looks different. She answers slower. She shares less. She watches patterns. She listens to her body. She stops trusting words without behavior. She stops calling inconsistency love. She stops giving full access to half safe people. She stops letting nostalgia rewrite the truth. She stops accepting apologies that come without repair. And she stops calling herself cruel for needing peace. This is what people feel when they say she changed. They feel the absence of the old access. They feel the loss of the version who used to make everything easier for them. They feel the boundary, they feel the door. But what they do not understand is that the door was not built from hate. It was built from healing. The healed empath does not hate people. She hates losing herself for love. She does not hate connection. She hates being consumed in the name of connection. She does not hate forgiveness. She hates when forgiveness becomes the place where self respect dies. She does not hate being kind. She hates being used because she is kind. That is the difference. And if you are becoming this version of yourself, do not be afraid. Do not panic because people no longer clap for your softness. Do not panic because your circle gets smaller. Do not panic because you feel guilty after saying no. Do not panic because some people call your healing cold. The people who truly love you will adjust to your boundaries. The people who only loved your availability will resent them. Let that reveal the truth. A healed empath learns that losing access to people who needed her unhealed is not loss. It is release. And when she releases them, her life becomes quieter. At first, the quiet may feel lonely. Then it begins to feel sacred. She sleeps better. She breathes deeper. She stops rehearsing arguments. She stops checking her phone with anxiety. She stops carrying conversations that should have ended long ago. She stops feeling responsible for every mood in the room. She starts hearing herself again. That is the reward, not revenge. She returns to herself, to her peace, to her truth, to the woman she abandoned trying to be loved. And the next time someone says, "You are not nice anymore," she does not panic. She understands. They are meeting the version of her that finally belongs to herself. Why the healed empath stops being nice is not because her heart has closed. It is because her heart finally has a home inside her own body. Too healed to be nice means too healed to keep smiling at disrespect, too healed to keep calling self abandonment love, too healed to keep handing sacred access to people who only knew how to take. She is still kind. She is still soft. She is still loving. But now her softness has standards. And that is why the old world no longer knows what to do with her.